between aggravating factors, which are not quite as high as in Scarlett's case, and the mitigation I have identified is such as to cancel each other out. In saying that, I have taken account of all the medical evidence and accept the diagnosis of ASD has some impact, but the extent to which it reduced your culpability
her name, others might.
Who could forget Esther Ghey, the mother of Brianna, who was killed at age 16 by 2 other teenagers? They'd watched violent content online, but Esther turned her awful loss into action, campaigning to protect kids online and sharing her story with us last year. As the debate over the risks and rewards of the internet rage, Esther has now joined forces with 22-year-old Roxy Longworth. She was targeted at 13, persuaded to send nude pictures to an older boy. But in a new campaign, Behind Our Screens, designed so that kids' voices, not just anxious parents, teachers or politicians, can be heard, the two of them have come together. I sat down with them yesterday.
I think we hear so much from like teachers and parents and like older people about what young people are accessing online and the dangers online. But Roxy's campaign aims to collect voices of young people and see what they're really experiencing. And I think that this is so important because I've been like every single week when I speak to somebody new, I learn something new about what they are facing online, and it never ceases to shock me.
What moved you then, Roxy, to start this campaign Behind Our Screens?
I think there were a couple of things. Firstly, the amount of time I spent feeling so ashamed of what happened to me and so alone. And then when I started campaigning, I was often the only young person in the room in conversations around online safety, and that was frustrating. And then I started speaking in schools, and I was hearing all these stories from other young people similar to mine, and I was like, wow, like how are there all these people feeling ashamed and alone when actually everyone's experienced something or seen something that made them uncomfortable. And even I was shocked by how quickly the young people's experiences are evolving and changing. Even I didn't know what was going on, and I'm only 22. And I just realized how important young people's insights are in these conversations so that the solutions actually work for us, so that they're actually based and informed by real lived experiences.
Love you to share some of the things you've been hearing about what's happening right now, but could you share a bit of what happened to you?
Yeah, of course. So at 13, I was coerced into sending photos to this 17-year-old guy at my school. It's hard to explain how subtle the pressure was, but it was very strong. And he then shared those with his friend, who used them to blackmail me into sending whatever he wanted, with the threat that if I didn't, he would send them around the school. So my summer holidays between year 9 and 10 were just spent feeling disgusting, trying to keep this all a secret, and dreading his next message. Eventually, he delivered on his threat. The photos went all around the school. Everyone saw them. The bullying was intense after my friends stopped speaking to me. And I felt like it was all my fault. I felt disgusting. The school found out and punished me. And I started punishing myself by self-harming, and my mental health completely spiraled. Mostly because of the shame, I think. Stopped sleeping, started hearing voices, was hospitalized with a psychotic episode, and spent the next several months on suicide watch. So when I started speaking out about it, I was inundated with messages of people with similar but different experiences, but the common thread throughout it was this feeling of shame. I was like, that is crazy that all these people are sat on their own feeling that.
And that inability to be open about what happens online is, we know, Esther, that's one of the things that happened in Brianna's case. You didn't know what she was seeing online.
No. And after having conversations with Roxy, like, I think that perhaps as a parent, I approached it in the wrong way. Sorry, I feel emotional about that. And after listening to your story as well, Roxy, thank you for sharing that. But so, like, when Brianna was accessing things such as self-harm sites and eating disorder sites, and she ended up in hospital as a result because she'd lost so much weight. And I only found out about that after she died. But I was concerned about what she was accessing online and who she was speaking to online more so. And I would take Brianna's phone away from her as a punishment. And I think that probably resulted in her coming away from me and not wanting to be open with me about what she was accessing online.
But Roxy, tell us then about some of the things that you hear now that have shocked you.
I think I think having spoken to young people and adults, the gap is very clear, and like that generational gap is only growing, and that scares me. I think a lot of young people I've spoken to have said that they're scared to tell their parents about anything they see online because they're worried their phones will be taken away as punishment. So even if they're concerned about something, they can't ask their parents because they're worried they'll just kind of freak out and take their phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that by giving young people a space to just share, not necessarily these terrible experiences, but anything they're confused about or something that they've seen that makes them uncomfortable, I'm hoping that that will just firstly ease the shame and also bridge that gap between these generations so that parents and teachers and politicians have these insights and can make informed decisions.
Esther, at the moment, it's very fashionable in political circles because of the drama adolescence to talk about this kinds of issue. You, of course, have been campaigning on it for quite a long time now. I mean, what do you think of how far the government's got with this? The Online Safety Act has come into force, but then there's also suggestions that that might even be watered down to try to please the United States. So how would you assess how far the government's got?
I think that the fact that it could be potentially watered down is absolutely shocking. If anything, it needs to be even stronger. Whilst we are like questioning whether it's strong enough or not enough, or whether it should be watered down, young people are at harm and young people are losing their lives, and young people shouldn't be struggling with mental health issues because of what they're accessing online. And we really do need to take a hard stance on this.
What about banning phones in schools? I mean, this is something the government says doesn't need to happen. In fact, the Prime Minister said banning phones in schools will be a waste of time. It's not the problem. But some other politicians, the Conservatives, think they should be banned in schools. What's your view of that? And you, Roxy?
So I don't know if we have different views on this. So like for me, I think we need to support teachers in doing just a blanket ban across England, because I've heard that if a school has banned phones in one area, but in the same area another school hasn't, then it becomes an issue with parents and students, and it just needs to be something that's across the board to make it easier.
I think these are the decisions that need to be informed by young people's actual experiences. I think if you make big gestures without really finding out exactly like the nuanced situations that are impacting their lives, then there's a worry that will just help to widen that generational gap rather than bring people together by encouraging more secrecy from young people.
One of the extraordinary things that people will remember you did after what terrible thing happened to you is you offered to meet the mother of the girl who took Brianna's life. Now, I know that meeting did take place and you actually then have become friends and you shared some of that common ground because, of course, she was also accessing terribly dark material online. What was that like? Can you just tell us about, have you found common ground?
I really appreciate Emma meeting me, and I really would call Emma a friend now as well. And she is just a normal mother, and she had no idea what her child was accessing. And I think that this is kind of the danger with smartphones. They have them in the pockets 24/7. We can't access we can't monitor what they're accessing all of the time.
But it's an extraordinary thing that you've become friends with the mother of a young woman who took your child's life.
I suppose it's helped me in a way, because I think that you can make stories up in your own head about the way that people are. And it was important for me to meet her to understand that actually she's a normal person, and that's helped me kind of not move on from it, because I don't think you can ever move on from something so horrific. But it's helped me to accept that actually she's just, we're both navigating something that's extremely difficult, and she's lost a child too.
So many of our viewers were so moved with how you spoke to us last year with such dignity and courage. And I know people will want me to ask you today, just how are you? And you said already, you can't, of course, move on. You can never completely move on from what happened, but how are you?
Oh, thank you. I suppose I have good days and I have bad days. And I think that Brianna really is kind of the driving force behind everything that I do. And we need to be so proud of her. Oh, sorry. We need to be so proud of our young people, because they really are amazing. And I just really hope that we can make a difference, because the amounts of mental health issues that young people are struggling with, and the issues that are online now, it's not right, and we need to do something about it.
Esther, it's a pleasure to see you again, and Roxy, it's lovely to meet you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
As we come to the end of Brianna Ghey's story, we're left with a simple, heartbreaking truth. She should still be here. She should be laughing with friends. She should be finishing school, discovering her path in life, and growing into the woman she dreamed of becoming.